It is now my honor to invite to the stage Terry Aldrich and Karin von Berg Noyes.
Thanks, Aaron. So Karin von Berg Noyes clearly was one of the most talented and versatile student athletes I ever had the opportunity and privilege to coach in my 36 years at Middlebury. I use the word versatile because not only was she a three-sport athlete, she did cross country in the fall, skiing in the winter, track in the spring, but the fact that she was so strong, it's so rare to have someone so strong in such a wide variety of events, from the 800 meters, which basically is a half mile, all the way up to 10,000 meters, which is 6 miles. So just incredibly talented, incredibly versatile. When I began to prepare for this introduction, I thought I could easily spend 35 to 40 minutes talking about her individual wins in dual meets, individual wins in invitationals, but I thought, no, if I tried that, given the mandate that Aaron gave us about 2 minutes preparation, I'd probably get shoes in the back of my head here. So what I've decided to do is to just focus on several of her championship meets that will give you an indication of her extraordinary ability. So we'll go to the fall of 1978. Up to that point, Karin was undefeated in all cross-country races that she was in. And we were approaching the Vermont State Meet. And that's a meet that occurs every year against the top teams in the state of Vermont. And in that particular year, the University of Vermont had a girl by the name of Judy St. Hilaire. Judy had proven with previous races that she was one of the top female distance runners in America, ultimately making our Olympic team. And so from the start, those two separated themselves from the field. And there was like two prize fighters going head to head. Karin was stronger on the hills, would pull ahead a little bit on the hills. Judy would catch up on the flats. They ran the last mile shoulder to shoulder and had to finish crossing the length of a soccer field. They both sprinted for the finish, but with 30 meters to go, Judy unleashed this incredible kick and beat Karin into the finish by 3 seconds. When I went up to Karin after the race to congratulate her on an outstanding performance, she looked at me with a smirk and said, "Well, that won't happen again." So 2 weeks later, we go to the Open New England Championships. They call it open because it's open to all schools, but it's primarily a Division I meet. In fact, 9 of the top 10 finishers that day were all Division I schools. So it was down at Holy Cross on an exceptionally hot day. Karin has a plan. She's going to push the middle mile so hard that she's essentially going to take the kick out of the kickers. So I was out at the 2 mile mark after the start, and I actually heard her coming before I saw her come out of the woods in first place, because she had this little habit of groaning and moaning when she ran. It sounded kind of like, isn't that true? That's true. But her plan worked to perfection. Judy valiantly tried to stay with her and faded to 5th. Karin won that Division I meet by 7 seconds that day. So now we fast forward to the spring of '79, and we go into the NESCAC Championships, where Karin tries to do, or attempts to do, a double of the 1,500 and the 5,000. It was a race at UMass hosted by Amherst College. In the first race, she ran the 1,500 and basically left the field in the dust. She ran a time of 4:28 in that race, which at the time was a school, a conference, and a track record. Now, to give you an idea of how competitive that time was, she still owns the conference record today after 36 years. Less than an hour later, she jumps into the 5,000, sets a school, conference, and meet record, and held that school record for a mere 34 years. Okay. So her times in that meet qualify her to go on to the national championships. Now, at that time, there was no NCAA for women. It was all done by the Association of Intercollegiate Athletics for Women, and that was great because they sponsored all these different sports, but no divisional races. It was all one meet. So it's at East Lansing, Michigan, Michigan State University, a huge stadium. Karin is not intimidated one bit. I'm just going to read the schools of the top 10 finishers to give you an idea of how competitive this was. Number 1, North Carolina State, Arizona State, University of Oregon, Morehead State, Cal Berkeley, St. Olaf was a Division III school, Missouri, University of Wisconsin, Texas A&M. Oh, you were counting? That's only 9? 5th place, Middlebury College, Karin von Berg, 1659, a new school record, and an All-American. So the next year, she is a year abroad. She comes back for her senior year, and she informs me that she's, her words now, fat and out of shape. And I found out from a teammate, madly in love with that handsome gentleman over there. So just to fast forward, it's her senior year. I convinced her that not running is a bad idea. So she decides to run. She qualifies for the national championships out at Cal State Hayward. And even though she admitted to being fat and out of shape, which she wasn't, in the last race of her collegiate career, she ended up 2nd in the 1500 and 6th in the 5,000, earning All-American in both. Just to show how incredible an athlete she was, a lot of her friends on the team were cross-country skiers, and she decided to be really cool to try a new sport. So she asked me if it would be okay if she tried out for the team. Well, I wasn't expecting much, foolishly, but she ended up making that team, making the carnival team, and finished 8th in her first race at the University of Vermont Carnival. So she's here tonight with her husband that she fell madly in love with, Charlie, with her sister Gretchen, her daughter Megan, and many of her teammates and classmates. I must admit and state that 3 of these classmates and teammates flew down from Anchorage, Alaska to be here with her, to support her. Please welcome Karin von Berg Noyes.
Wow. I do need my glasses. Thanks, Terry. When asked, I used to tell people that I got to be a good runner from taking tennis lessons. Hitting so many errant balls, I was constantly running outside the fence to collect them. Or maybe it was because my family traveled so much, and when my 3 older siblings and I needed to let off steam, my dad would pull the car over and shoo us out. He and my mother would drive down the road a mile or so for a short bit of peace and quiet while they waited for us to run after them. I definitely think being the youngest helped because I was always trying to catch up. As a high school student, I entered the arena of women's running on the crest of a wave. Running for Health was catching on, and Title IX was just taking effect when I entered college. New athletic opportunities for women were becoming available everywhere. In high school, the distance race for girls was the half mile. By the time I graduated from Middlebury, however, women competed in almost all events offered to men. In my case, it seemed like whenever I improved my time, I set a new record. And when I graduated from Middlebury, I held records in all the distance races. And the crazy thing is that these records held up for a really long time. Bottom line, I love to run fast. Terry Aldridge coached me in 3 sports: cross country, Nordic skiing, and track. And when I reflect back on my college years, it's not the papers I wrote or the long afternoons in the biology lab that I recall. Instead, what continues to resonate most are the treks to the field house, the crunching of the leaves underfoot, the warm showers after a rainy, cold workout, the long van rides to distant races, not working the breakfast shift in Proctor or nickel pitchers at the Rosebud, but early morning runs, Sunday pancake breakfasts, long hikes in the Adirondacks, intervals on the golf course, learning how to roller ski, and laps and laps and laps around an early season loop at Breadloaf. On my first attempt to roller ski up Appalachian Gap, I was trailing the group, of course. Terry stopped to give me a pep talk and then drove up to the top to wait for everyone. His words worked his magic, and overconfident and feeling like $1 million, I blithely double-poled up and over the crest of a hill till I realized I was zooming down the other side. No brakes. I could have kept my head and ridden it out, but I panicked, lost control, and skidded along the pavement with no more protection than my running shorts and a Middlebury t-shirt. I got up, whimpered a little bit, and realized there was nothing to do but keep on going, which I did. I still remember the faces of the rest of the skiers plastered to the van windows looking at my raw, bloody leg. Ouch. The rest of the cross-country season was painful. Teammate Alice Tower Knapp reminded me that we would often add to our pretty extensive workouts by giving each other piggyback rides up the concrete stairwells to our 6th floor room in Hadley. However, Alice, the thing I remember was the time the ski team was in a borrowed condo in Waterville Valley for a weekend of races. She decided to hop in the shower first, and in an attempt to turn on the water, unscrewed the entire fixture, and a gush of water spewed against the opposite wall. There was a mad scramble to find the water shut off and much mopping with towels. Terry never had an easy time with us rookies. By far, my favorite workout memory was from track. Terry would set up the workout, 10 400s, 1 lap of the track, at 70-second pace, with a short rest between. My goal was to come within a second of the target time. The prize was a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Terry would pick up his stopwatch and send me on my way. Oh, how he loved this. He never called out splits. He never said anything at all, but it was the width of his grin that told me how close I was to my mark. You know, I can't remember how it all came out. We kept a running tally, and there was some way that Terry could win back what I had accrued. I recall being really good at this game, but getting only a pint or 2 in the end. Obviously, he was better at it than I. I was very fortunate that Middlebury sent Terry and me to several national meets. Spring of my senior year, you've already heard about this, after I had fallen hard for my soon-to-be Middlebury spouse, Terry and I went out to the San Francisco area for the Division III track nationals. Yeah, I raced, and I raced well, but mostly Terry remembers that I spent a lot of time in restaurant bathrooms because that was where the payphones were, and I was on the phone with Charlie. I am amazed and somewhat overwhelmed that I have been chosen for this great honor. I am grateful for the opportunities made available to me by Middlebury College Athletics. I'm grateful that Sue Murphy and the rest of the training staff kept my body in working condition. I'm happy to share this evening with my sister Gretchen, who was coaching swimming and lacrosse at Middlebury when I arrived as a freshman. My teammates and senior year roommates Alice Tower-Knapp and Ann Leggett, both of whom came all the way from Alaska. Jane Ogden, a rabbit on the cross-country course. Lindsay Putnam. Lindsay and I spent our sophomore cross-country season trading off victories. And Tina Ilgner Ellickson, one of the women who followed in my footsteps. There are two more Alaskans that I need to recognize. One who wasn't able to make it, John Estel, the great statistician and assistant coach who took a special interest in the advancement of my running, took me under his wing and got me out to some of the bigger road races. And then, surprise tonight, Jim Renkert, who showed up out of the blue. Thank you, Jim. Also a Nordic skier and runner and classmate. And I wanted to recognize my family, Charlie, who's a Middlebury alum also, my daughter Megan, and who brought her son Jackson today, my other two sons, and a daughter-in-law and a son-in-law and a 2-year-old. They didn't come. We're probably better off without the 2-year-old. A special thanks to Beth Ann Aldridge for warmly inviting us young, aspiring athletes into her family and lending us her husband for all those endless hours of training and travel. And Terry, for all your time, energy, and enthusiasm. Because of your high standards and good spirits, I found incredible joy in working hard, running well, and competing to win. Thank you.
Thanks, Karin. Congratulations. Yeah. So you can hold that.